Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new episode of Science Monitor, our weekly update on what's happening in the field of science and technology in and around the country. While the excitement of the climate change conference catches on, the Tibetan plateau reels under the grip of global warming. This and much more coming up on the program, but first, the headlines this week. COP21, the climate change conference, begins in Paris. Roof of the world reels under global warming. Another milestone in electronics, Indian Institute of Science researchers patent new transistor design. And in the In Focus segment today, we'll explore the working and history of LED lights. Our top focus this week is on the UN Climate Change Conference in Paris, or the COP21 as it's being referred to. The 21st session of the Conference of Parties has begun in Paris. As world leaders deliberate and discuss ways to arrive at an agreement to cut down carbon emissions and stop climate change, we look at the concerns and commitments of India. Take a look at this report.
After many speculations, the much-awaited event of the year. The 21st session of the Conference of the Parties started in Paris on 30th November. The UN Climate Conference COP21, which will go on till 11th December, is being attended by 150 world leaders to discuss a possible new global agreement on climate change to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and mitigate the effects of global warming. The focus of COP21 is to limit the rising global temperatures during this century to no more than 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The conference opened with the US President Obama pushing for a pact to achieve these goals. India is one of the chief participants of the climate change conference, vouching for the climate justice. Speaking at the conference, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called the developed nations with higher emissions to assume ambitious targets and allow room for developing nations to grow. He stressed that while all the nations should have a common goal, the responsibilities should be different and specific according to the current status of the countries. With India's emissions accounting only 3% of energy-related carbon dioxide emissions, India has taken a stand on not specifying a definite cap on its emissions, while China has set a target to reduce its fossil fuel pollution by 2030. What is more ironical is that with increasing demands of power supply, India is likely to see an upsurge in the coal production with large-scale projects in the coming years, like the Magad project, aiming to produce 1.5 billion metric tons of fossil fuel by 2020. While India is planning the coal push, India also plans to improve its emission intensity by using fewer amounts of carbon to fuel its growth. Speaking on the occasion, Prime Minister Modi has also announced the launch of a solar alliance comprising more than 120 countries to significantly expand the use of solar energy along with other renewable energy sources. It was also announced that India aims to produce 175 gigawatts energy from renewable sources by 2022. India is also committed to increase its forest cover to absorb more carbon dioxide and implement new technologies to make its energy sector more efficient. Indian representatives have also called for climate financing from developed countries to improve the infrastructure to harness renewable energy resources and cut down carbon emission. The occasion also saw the launch of Breakthrough Energy Coalition, an investment platform for clean energy projects by Bill Gates and the Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg.
Now, in the wake of the Paris Climate Summit comes the plight of the Tibetan glaciers, stressing on the need for stronger and effective policies against climate change. With data revealing that the glaciers of Tibetan Plateau are rapidly melting, the perils of increasing water levels in the surrounding lakes has surfaced. More in this report.
The Tibetan Plateau, also called the roof of the world and sometimes the third pole, is known for its glaciers and its influence on the world climate, including the monsoons. Located 4,700 meters above sea level on the Tibetan Plateau is the holy Namsto Lake, the major water resource for the Tibetan population living in surrounding grasslands. And while the world leaders convene at the Paris Congress on climate change, here comes a shocking new revelation. Namsto Lake, fed partly by runoff from the region's glaciers, is expanding. The data from the Qinghai Tibet Research Center of Chinese Academy of Sciences indicates that Namsto has expanded by an area of around 50 square kilometers between the years 2000 and 2014. And experts say this only means one thing, that is, rapidly raising temperature is triggering an increased glacier melting. According to the experts, glaciers in the Tibetan Autonomous Region have shrunk by 15% over the past 30 years.
Glaciers both in the Himalayan region and glaciers in the northern plateau region and melting much faster than comparing to, say, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And particularly recent 20 years, we have some of the small glaciers disappearing from Changtang region, and some of the lakes increasing because the water coming more from the glacier side. So the global warming, there is a strong impact on the Tibetan Plateau, particularly for the glaciers.
This has resulted in the rise of annual runoff from glaciers from 61.5 billion cubic meters to 79.5 billion cubic meters during the same period. Research also indicates that glaciers both in the Himalayan and northern Tibetan Plateau region are melting at a faster pace than they were 30 years ago, with data suggesting a rapid increase in melting in the recent 20 years. It is also warned that if the melting continues at the present rate, 2/3 of the plateau's glaciers are likely to disappear by 2050, impacting the lives of up to 2 billion people in China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Bhutan. The situation indeed calls for urgent and effective measures to mitigate the effects of global warming.
Transistors are the building block of most of the electronic equipments. While it is predicted that beyond 2018, all the existing transistor designs will become obsolete, researchers from Indian Institute of Science have come up with a solution. The new transistor design presented by the team holds the potential to revolutionize the future of electronics. How? Let's see in this report.
Transistors, the tiny semiconductor devices used to amplify or switch electronic signals, forms the building blocks of all the modern electronic devices. The transistor, since its invention in 1947, has undergone considerable improvements in its design and function to become today's advanced FinFETs, used in high-speed and powerful wireless devices, laptops and computers. while transistors are becoming smaller and more compact. Laws of physics predict that performance of FinFETs will deteriorate one scale below 10 nanometer, and this stall is likely expected to happen by 2018, necessitating the need of innovative transistor designs for further improvement of electronic devices. Now envisioning the future of transistor technology, Professor Mayank Srivastav of the Indian Institute of Science, along with his student K. Himanjanayulu, invented and demonstrated a new transistor design, which may prove revolutionary. The new design, already patented, is based on advanced mechanisms like vertical tunneling, wherein electrons tunnels through a vertical barrier and heterojunctions, consisting interface between layers of dissimilar crystalline semiconductors to transfer electrons. What is more interesting is that the design can make use of existing FinFET-based chip manufacturing facilities and process, which will ensure a smooth and economically viable transition from old to new designs.
It requires 15 times less power. In simple terms, it is going to basically improve the battery life or battery time in charge state, and this particular design or transistor is smaller than the state of the art as of today. So you can pack more number of transistors in a given area. In simple terms, you can pack more number of functionality in a given area, as well as the size and the weight is going to be smaller if this technology or this design is adapted by the industry.
According to experts, the new design can significantly improve the chip performance and its scalability beyond 10 nanometer technology node. Also, the new design can work at lower voltages and draws 15 times less charge in idle state, ensures a longer battery life. Expected to be a revolution in the field of chip technology, the new design is likely to be the future of transistors.
Time for us to slip into a very short break. We'll be back in just a while. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Science Monitor. Let's now take a look at some important science and technology activities happening in India and abroad in our segment Science Express.
With the aim of raising awareness about the harmful effects of climate change, nearly 200 organizations from across the world took part in the Konark International Cyclothon. The cyclothon, conducted in Odisha on 29th November 2015, saw enthusiastic participation of representatives from educational institutions, NGOs, corporate houses, cycling clubs, and government institutions from US, Canada, Japan, among other countries. The event, that involved cycling 40 kilometers from Puri to Konark city, was aimed at promoting cycling for environment's betterment. India's Arjuna awardee Minati Mohapatra participated in the event and encouraged youngsters to reduce the use of fuel-driven vehicles. With the winters approaching, India's capital Delhi has been engulfed with toxic smog. According to US Embassy's monitoring station, air quality index for New Delhi in recent days has been noted to be 372, which put air pollution levels into the hazardous category. With the smog likely to increase in the coming months owing to changes in weather, traffic and coal fires, initiatives to reduce the smog and clean up the air have become a necessity. In a major step towards improving health and hygiene and encouraging girls from rural areas to attend schools, US Ambassador to India Richard Verma on 24th November laid the foundation for a bio-toilet in a girls' school in Uttarakhand. The initiative is aimed at boosting girls' education in India, as studies indicate that a large number of girls leave school due to lack of toilet in their premises. Focusing on the increasing applications of carbon in various areas, a 3-day national seminar on carbon materials was recently conducted in Delhi. The event, inaugurated by Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary, Ministry of Science and Technology, saw the participation of Professor S.K. Joshi, former Director CSIR, as guest of honor. The conference focused on decisions on various applications of carbon, including carbon materials, carbon nanotubes, graphene and battery fuel cells. Celebrating its 17th Foundation Day, the National Institute of Plant Genome Research commemorated the contributions of Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose with a dedicated lecture. The lecture was delivered by renowned researcher and Bhatnagar awardee Professor Avdesh Surolia, who enlightened the audience on lectin proteins and their future applications. The event also saw the felicitation of outstanding students both in research and sports. Increasing demand for power supply is a major issue that the world faces today. In an effort to address the same, Manoj Bhargav has come up with an innovative device that can produce electricity for free. The solution comes in the form of a cycle that can be pedaled for an hour to generate electricity for a rural household to last for 24 hours. While the power generated can be used to light bulbs, small fans and charge mobile phones, the process is eco-friendly and free of cost. The free electricity technique is likely to find applications in remote rural areas that lack infrastructure.
Available in various colors and assembled in various shapes, LED lights are gaining popularity today for general lighting as well as for special decorative purposes. Cheap and energy efficient, LED lamps are known to have better lifespan than incandescent and fluorescent lamps. It's expected to be a $25 billion market by 2023. That's why in today's In Focus segment, we'll trace the history and evolution of LED lamps.
Sparkling and beautiful, LED lamps have become an irresistible part of festivities and decoration today. LED lights are being used largely not only to lighten and decorate homes and offices, but also in digital applications like traffic signals, remotes, and much more. With LED lights gaining such immense popularity, have you ever wondered how the LED technology has emerged and evolved? In order to understand the evolution of LEDs, we will have to go back in the history, that is, the beginning of the 20th century. It was the year 1907, and British scientist Captain Henry Joseph Round was working as an assistant to Guglielmo Marconi when he first observed that light was emitted when electricity was passed through a silicon carbide. While this phenomenon, called electroluminescence, later formed the basis of the discovery of LED, he didn't pay much attention to this work. In 1920, Russian scientist Oleg Vladimirovich Lozev observed that the diodes he used in radio receivers produced light when electricity was passed through them. Lozev described this emission from carborundum point contact junctions as the first light-emitting diode, or LED, and published his theory of how they worked in a Russian journal, which was also published later in German and British journals. Based on Einstein's quantum mechanics, Lozev explained light emission as an inverse of the photoelectric effect and wrote to Einstein about it, for which he did not receive a reply. However, the work done by Oleg Lozev paved way for the development of the LED technology. In 1950, British researchers developed a diode based on infrared emission from gallium arsenide. This could be called the first effort towards the development of infrared LEDs. 11 years later, in 1961, James R. Bird and Gary Pittman, working in Texas Instruments, discovered the first infrared light emission from a tunnel diode they had constructed using gallium arsenide while experimenting on laser-based diodes. This was the first LED for which they acquired a patent. In 1962, Nick Holonyak, while working at General Electric Company, successfully developed the first visible spectrum LED, which he reported in the journal Applied Physics Letters. This LED, which produced a red light, was based on gallium arsenide phosphide. Later in 1972, George Crawford invented the first yellow LED using gallium arsenide phosphide. He also improved the brightness of the red and the red-orange LEDs developed by Holonyak by a factor of 10. Today, we have different types of LEDs available. Researchers across the globe are working towards improving the efficiency and affordability of LEDs.
These days, we are talking a lot about LED, light emitting diodes, and lots of, they are being used in myriad ways. When say traffic signals, even in lighting and in laser shows, in medical field, and even in agriculture. In fact, this greenhouse cultivation becomes possible with LED.
Major focus of these researches involves the development of novel semiconductor materials, especially phosphorescent materials, to increase the quality and efficiency of LEDs while reducing the cost. With improving technologies, we can expect carbonic or organic LEDs along with quantum LEDs in the coming years. The future lighting technology will also see computer-controlled LEDs with near-zero thermal emission and heating. This is one of the reasons why LED technology is looked upon as a major component of green technologies of future. It is expected that along with providing cheap and efficient lighting alternatives, LEDs will also go a long way in reducing global warming and its undesirable effects.
That's all we have time for in this episode of Science Monitor. Do send us your valuable feedback and suggestions on today's episode. Our email ID is news@vigyanprasar.gov.in. You can also write to us at Vigyan Prasar, C24, Qutub Institutional Area, New Delhi 110016. We'll be back with more stories in science and technology same time next week. Until then, take good care and think scientific.